Obviously, Ehlers Danlos syndrome has a whole host of crazy symptoms, but I talked to my lovely zebras about the hardest thing about EDS that you don't always think about straight away, because you tend to think of the pain and the joint instability, but there's a lot of stuff that you don't think of.
You know, the worst part about having EDS isn't even having EDS. It's the lack of awareness and the people that don't understand us.
I think the hardest thing about living with EDS is that if you saw me out on the street, you wouldn't know anything was wrong with me, and you might assume that I'm selfish or lazy for whatever reason you decide on that day, and you might treat me differently than if you saw me in my wheelchair with my assistance dog and my neck brace on.
I think people don't realise that hypermobile EDS is like 80% of your body is made of collagen. It affects a lot of your body. Like, it's not just being hypermobile, it's not just having bendy joints or being able to do the splits or whatever. It's like, it affects like your stomach, your bladder, your skin, your like blood vessels and like pots and everything. I don't think people realise that. I don't think people realise how much it can affect you as well. Like, being a young person, people look at you and think that because you look fine that you are fine, and they don't really understand quite how much pain you're in and how rubbish your body feels all the time and how ill you feel all the time. I don't think people understand that it is constant as well, and people don't always think that it's constant. I think they don't. It's a really hard thing for people to get their head around, that I'm always in pain. It's like what now? And it's like, yes, now. Like, always is always.
I would say the hardest thing about living with EDS that people don't always realise is the fact that there are so many systems involved. So where obviously we say it's an invisible illness, people do generally see dislocations or they can see joint issues, but they can't see all these additional issues that we have with our hearts and lungs and stomach and bladders and all of the other organ systems within our bodies. So that can be really exhausting to have to explain why, that we have this issue, but we also have this issue as well. And people kind of get fed up that, there's so many additional problems.
Una delle cose alla quale la gente meno pensa e che spesso noi nemmeno riusciamo a capire che sia così, è il fatto di non riuscire a fare programmi, perché la nostra condizione ci porta assolutamente ad essere imprevedibili, nel senso che non sappiamo come staremo domani, ma non sappiamo nemmeno come staremo fra 5 minuti. Quindi non è questione di essere pigri, ma è proprio un'impossibilità di riuscire a fare programmi anche per la stessa giornata.
So the hardest thing about living with EDS that I think a lot of people don't think about as being like a major symptom is probably delayed healing time. I know that doesn't sound like that awful compared to like pain and dislocations, but it is so annoying. And just like bruising and like any kind of scratch can leave a permanent scar, and it's just so frustrating because you'll bump into something or someone will like tap your shoulder too hard and then you'll have a giant bruise, or you'll fall and scrape your knee and then your knees are permanently scarred for the rest of your life, and it's just really annoying and frustrating.
For me personally, the hardest thing about living with EDS are all of the conditions that come with it. For example, the anxiety, agoraphobia and panic attacks that come from the uncertainty of whether you're going to pass out or vomit or dislocate something whilst you're out. The depression from watching your body change, from the weight gain, the weight loss, the stretch marks, the bruising, the scars. I personally developed disordered eating because I didn't know what was going on with my body. I was so self-conscious about the changes, the hair loss, the weight gain, the stretch marks that were getting more and more prominent. And that was the way that I could control it, which was obviously very unhealthy. There's also people develop conditions like PTSD from the medical traumas that they go through, OCD, etc.
For me, one of the hardest things has been losing my independence and losing my career. I used to be a nurse, but also what we in the chronic illness community call brain fog, where my memory has become so bad. Expecting other people to understand that if they tell me something, within minutes it can be gone. Other days I'll be fine, and on a bad day it's gone and I can't remember anything. For my kids, I guess for one of the boys it would be the debilitating migraines that he has. The other thing that they all have is anxiety problems, difficulty sleeping. My daughter does have pain. She's just started to have dislocations, and as a youngster currently taking exams, she really suffers with bad shakes, which can be a problem at times.
I guess the hardest thing about living with the symptoms of Ehlers Danlos that people don't always think about is obviously it's invisible, kind of. You can't see all the symptoms. Like one day I may have a brace on my knee because my knee needs that extra support, but the other day it may not. But that doesn't still mean that I don't have trouble with my knee, if you get what I mean. It does look like you're fine, like on the outside, but obviously on the inside you may have trouble, you may have pain, but you don't always show it. You just carry on. And I guess that's quite hard because obviously Ehlers Danlos is not talked about enough, and not everybody knows about it, not everybody understands what the condition is about. With Ehlers Danlos, obviously it's not just about being hypermobile, there are other symptoms that people share as well, and I guess it's a case of that everybody who has Ehlers Danlos is different.
Everyone, when you say you're fine and things like that, no one realises you are always in pain, constantly. I have missed basically my teenhood because all my symptoms basically flared up since when I was 13, and I've never been to a party, I've never been on holiday with friends or by myself without my parents and things like that. You lose a lot of your life, but you also make lots of new memories just adjusted to your condition. Basically, it's just difficult to explain to other people how life with EDS really is, because even though you have family that support you and everything, no one will truly know what you're going through and how you feel. It's so difficult to explain to people.
The worst part of having EDS would probably be having to stand up for myself a lot and learning how to advocate for my own health. Often people can put down any medical problem to the EDS, and I've found that sometimes I have to work hard to be listened to.
I say the hardest thing about living with EDS is accepting that not everybody really understands what's going on. It's very easy to pretend that you've got a brave face, that you're very smiley, that life is really great. And it's only when you go home and you think, and you're on your own and you think, actually this is really quite rubbish. And you're sat there dealing with symptoms that people couldn't comprehend, and you just think, why me? And then you'll have your friends complaining to you about how they've got a graze on their knee and it really hurts, and you couldn't possibly imagine what they're going through, and yet your shoulder has been dislocated for a week.
I would say two main things. Number one, how exhausting it is on your body, the pain, dislocations, just everything. Like, because obviously fatigue is also invisible. It's a different sort of thing to tiredness. It's like your body, you permanently feel like you've done 10-mile run, even though we can't really run. Also, the other thing I would say is the fact that it varies so much between different people who have the same condition. It's really hard to say, oh, my friend has this, but she's also got EDS, when you don't, and vice versa.
And also how much it varies between the same person each day.
Yeah.
So like one day I might be walking with crutches and one day I might be in my wheelchair, and it's taken people around me at kind of school and within my family as well to kind of realise and accept that that's just how it is.
Definitely.
Probably, aside from the popping out, the pains that you get. Like I said before, I go quite quiet when I'm in a lot of pain, and people just read that as, oh, she's moody, or she's sulking, she's being quiet, and they don't want to be around me, which fair enough, I wouldn't blame them. But that's because sometimes I'm in a lot of pain where everything hurts. Joints want to come out of place, or I've had a scare. I had it one time when I was dancing, a neck muscle went and my ankle went, and it just threw me completely, and for the rest of the rehearsal I was awful to be around. But because I didn't really know how to talk about it, I just shut everybody off. And that happens a lot, just you shut everybody off and you internalise it all, because sometimes it happens loads and you pop out maybe all day, or it happens like for 3 weeks in a row, or then it doesn't happen for ages, and you can just feel a bit embarrassed about trying to tell someone about it, because you feel like you're complaining, and you're not, but you feel like you are, because you feel like you're complaining about how much it hurts, but you're not. You're trying to say to someone else, can you help me? And I'm very lucky that I do. My housemate literally looks after me and is always there for me, and if I didn't have her here with me like this year, I'd be in a lot worse of a place without her. So I'm very, very lucky.
For me, I think the thing about EDS that's the hardest, that most people don't think about, is the guilt. You know, it's hard enough having to deal with the fact that you are going to live with this condition for your whole life, but also the fact that those around you have to make sacrifices. You know, I feel guilty to my mum and to my boyfriend and to the rest of my family who've done so much for me and had to help me out to the levels that they've had to help me out before. But I also feel guilt within myself when I'm not doing something that I might have used to be able to do, or something I feel like I should be doing. It's especially now I'm back at university that I'm trying to do work and I can't concentrate, and I'll feel guilty because I feel like I'm just being lazy, and I know I'm not, but you can't help but feel that way, and sometimes that can be really difficult.
I'm going to say maybe the emotional burden that comes with the condition. Because it usually takes so long to get the proper diagnosis, I think that a lot of us end up with a lot of emotional baggage and emotional trauma of trying to find answers, and to coming across doctors and maybe family members and friends who are just a little bit less than supportive. I know personally that I carry a lot of guilt. Before I got my diagnosis, I always felt guilty that I wasn't trying hard enough and that it maybe was all in my head. And then now that I do have the diagnosis, I feel guilty that my parents have to take care of me a lot of the time, and that I'm not able to be there for my friends as much as I would like to be. Living with a chronic illness is difficult. And I also think that because our condition is considered so rare, and a lot of times we wait so long for the proper diagnosis, that there's a lot of fear of being invalidated, that someone is going to take away your diagnosis. Because it really does become part of you, and there's just that constant fear of losing that again.
I think people expect doctors to be able to help you as well. Like, healthy people say like, oh, go to the doctors and I'll be able to help you, and it's like, actually a lot of doctors haven't even heard of EDS, or they don't know what it is, or they just say that they can't help you or whatever, and the doctors don't have the answers, so people don't. I guess that's really hard, because it's like the people that you're meant to turn to don't actually have any help, so you're kind of on your own.
Thank you so much for watching this EDS Awareness Month video. It would mean so much to us if you could share it to help us spread more awareness. I want to thank every single person that has been involved in this video. You are all absolutely amazing, and I'm so glad to call you my friends. If you've liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button.